And that's why we got a mean message about me sounding like Marge Simpson.
Yeah, okay, quick note to my viewers. Don't ever send me mean messages about Rod.
Yeah, the two of us are right here. And we're not saying it for us. Yeah, your mean comments give me sexual thrills.
So, keep it to yourself, or just think about that. So anyone who's known me for any appreciable period of time knows that I really, really enjoy the Scott Pilgrim series by Brian Lee O'Malley. I checked out volume 1 in 2005 or 6, and I guess I was the right age and life experience level to just immediately be intrigued and enchanted. I liked the art style. I feel like he really had his pulse on the humor at the time, for good and for bad. And also, as a bonus for me, he draws style and clothing so effortlessly and well. I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that I have tried to put together many a Ramona Flowers or Kim Pine or Lynette Guycott inspired ensemble. And after that, I became something of a Scott Pilgrim evangelist. I'm missing volume 1 because I've lent it out enough times that I don't always get it back. And it's fine. I think at least 2 people have read it, and that's enough for me. That's my contribution. Obviously, when a movie was announced, especially an Edgar Wright project, I was really excited. I was already a fan of the source material, and he's one of a handful of directors that I can think of that's a really good pick to make a live-action cartoon. And it was good. I liked it. There were obviously some sacrifices that had to be made in adapting a multi-volume comic series into one cohesive movie. And I think they made good choices, even though the Lisa Miller fan in me was very sad. But it brought in a fresh new wave of fans. Conversations were renewed. It was a fun time to like Scott Pilgrim. So obviously I was pretty stoked when Netflix announced that they were going to be reimagining it as an anime series with the same cast from the movie, which a lot of people were really excited about. I have mixed feelings about, but we'll get into that later. I was pretty pumped. I was like, hell yeah, we're gonna get a fresh new wave in the fandom again, and we're finally gonna meet Lisa Miller, right? Well, let's get into it. But first, I'll let the Dirtbag Drive players take you through a volume-by-volume synopsis of Scott Pilgrim, and then compare it to the anime synopsis.
In Volume 1, Scott Pilgrim's precious little life. What do you think this is, The Idol? We're not summing this up for you. Go buy a copy and support arts. In Episode 1 of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, maybe you're broke, so you can go to the library and check out a copy. It's fine. Just make sure that you pay off your late fees. Incidentally, you want to lend me money to pay off my library dues? No. The main takeaway is that you should know that Scott Pilgrim meets the mysterious Ramona Flowers and then discovers that he must fight her evil exes to win her heart. The evil exes being Matthew Patel, Lucas Lee, Todd Ingram, Roxy Richter, Ken and Kyle, and Gideon Graves. And in the show, Scott Pilgrim meets the mysterious Ramona Flowers by being defeated by her first evil ex, and Ramona must find out what really happened to him, talking to and resolving issues with Matthew Patel, Lucas Lee, Todd, Roxy, Kyle, Ken, Gideon, the whole crew. Also, Scott's in a band called Sex Bob-'em of indeterminate quality. Are you comfortable?
No, but I think Zap is. I hope his purring is not picking up on the audio.
It's pretty loud.
Look, we're gonna see, bro.
Anyway, it's a strong comic series and a strong show. There are going to be some things that didn't age well in the comics, and you should know that going in. You should also know that the show actually sort of takes some steps to fix a few of them, or at least address them. And you'll probably enjoy both. So, check them both out, and then come back for our analysis.
Gentlefolk, thank you as always for joining me here. So let's get into it. What did we like?
Lots.
Yeah, they really took a big risk, and I think it paid off. Yeah, no, same, but we need some specifics because I already think this video might be a little short.
Okay, I thought the voice acting was mostly really good.
Yeah, it really says a lot about Edgar Wright that he found so many supernovas before they blew up. And it also says a lot about the project that he made that they wanted to come back and do it a second time. They utilized the talent really well, too. I mean, obviously, I'm not a voice actor. Oh, is that why my accent slides between Brooklyn and transatlantic? That's a very generous read of both versions of your voice, but yeah.
Is that also why we got a mean message saying I sounded like Marge Simpson?
Probably. And side note, hey, a quick message to my viewers. Don't you ever send me a mean message about Rod again. Yeah, the two of us are right here, and we're not trying to spare his feelings.
Nope. Your mean comments give me sexual thrills.
So, think about that. Or just keep it to yourself. Anyway, the point is, I'm not a voice actor, but I did notice that most of the better voice actors were on the Evil X squad, so rearranging the story to give them more screen time seemed like a smart move. I loved incorporating knives directly into the band, and honestly, the scene where she learns to play bass is one of the most beautiful scenes Netflix has put together this year.
Agreed.
Yeah, it made me really feel like I should be practicing my bass.
You should. I liked Ramona's hair dyeing sequences. Since the show was more anime than video game inspired, it made sense to have a magical girl transformation. And since they probably wouldn't have an easy time switching up her hairstyles, the hair colors made sense.
And apparently Ramona's superpower is dyeing her hair every single day and it never frying off. So good for her. I liked getting to know all of the evil exes. You know how everybody in the queer community has like a C-tier X-Men that they will absolutely go to the mat for? I think that to a certain unbearable brand of coffee shop nerd, there is a Ramona's evil ex like that. Yeah, I like Roxy. I like Matthew Patel.
And I like Lucas Lee.
And it was cool to get to spend time with them, not only because, like I said, they were all good voice actors, but revisiting a story like this later in life is interesting because when you're younger, it's easy to imagine that your partner's exes are all villains that you can vanquish. But I don't know. I think it's a little more realistic to look back at it and be like, they're not something that I can just punch into a distant memory. There's something that I have to deal with and maybe even account for the wrongdoings that I did in the relationship. I also just like Ramona in general. And as a fan of that, I really liked the direction the show took. I've always kind of been an apologist for her because I felt like I got her. I can relate to being an absolute mess of a human who tries to hide how much I don't have things together behind a sense of style and maybe a cool hairdo.
You think so, huh?
But getting to spend more time with her and getting to know her better was honestly one of my favorite parts about the series. You sure about that, C? Let's go to the next section. Proceed. Well, obviously we spent more time with Ramona, but did we really learn that much more about her other than that she's really, really devoted to Scott? For some reason?
Yeah, that's a good point. I could argue that we learned more about her in the comics with things that she dropped in conversation. And honestly, it would have been easy to work some of that in, as well as some lore that we now know outside of the official writing.
Yeah, it would have been super easy for her to tell Lucas something like, "Sorry, I was kind of a mess because my brother just died at the time and I was dealing with it."
Or, I don't know, something about that's something that I learned when I was attending the university in the sky.
Huh. You guys really like taking things away from me, huh? No, I still think she's a good character. I just think that they could have spent some more time with her and finding out what all that means. Who is that?
Zap.
Yeah, fair enough. I liked making Ramona a more central character, but I guess you guys have a good point that it could have been done better. What else have we got?
I understand that fighting is integral to the world of Scott Pilgrim, but replacing the shallow notion of evil exes with the equally shallow notion of NPCs that are paparazzi or stunt doubles, it isn't a huge improvement.
Yeah, you are still kind of reducing some whole people down to a fight scene and what it might mean for them to be vanquished. There's also just going to be disadvantages to adapting a comic series that has had years for people to spend time and get to know these characters and invest in the relationship, and then adapting it into a TV show. Like, we understand why Scott did one fight in the comic book. It was impulsive and a one off, and he was kind of a fighter. And then as it went along, Ramona became more and more worth fighting for to him.
But in this one, they just have one date.
And it was a good date. Everybody likes a good walk and talk, but I don't know. If we can't feel the sparks, it doesn't matter that they say that they can. And some of this is going to come down to another complaint that I have, and this is tricky because I like Michael Cera and I really, really like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but they aren't necessarily strong voice actors. And some of that has to do with the kind of character that Ramona Flowers in particular is. She is sort of aloof and disaffected and cool. That's kind of her character. But I feel like maybe there's a better way to vocalize that. And if I were extremely talented actress Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I probably would have contacted my old co-star, incredibly talented voice actress Mae Whitman, and say, hey, can you give me some pointers on how this kind of character could be realized through voice acting alone? And Michael Cera, you know, he went for it a few times, but there's usually something kind of Michael Cera-ish about him that I just can't unsee him.
That actually reminds me of something that I didn't know if I should put here or elsewhere.
Well, what'd you decide?
Elsewhere. Let's hit it.
Go ahead.
Hey, why didn't they let Michael Cera voice older Scott?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, at this point, he's closer to older Scott's age than younger Scott's age. And it would have given him a chance to really try something and go for something different. Like, maybe he could have even attempted a big voice, you know, something gravelly or smoky or less throaty. I don't know. Again, I'm not a great voice actor. Yeah, maybe he would pick an accent that he couldn't maintain for more than 5 scenes. Dude, but like, why not give him that chance? And I liked Will Forte. Maybe you could bring him in to be like much older Scott or something. Or someone, you know, a Jason Momoa. That can be like your big star cameo. Surprise, they came and did this project. Although I guess when you have Chris Evans on board, you don't really need to do that.
Pretty confusing, huh?
Yeah. I guess ultimately I'm a little confused as to why all the time travel shenanigans didn't dissuade Scott and Ramona from dating each other.
Yeah, I mean, a marriage ends in divorce, so you upend your whole life and go back in time and try to wreck the relationship. Pretty weird, but Honestly, it's like if you felt that strongly about it and we've only had one date, why not just bail? Seems like it would be a lot easier.
I also don't 100% understand why some of the evil exes had so much time dedicated to their reconciliation or even redemption, but some of them really didn't. Like Todd Ingram, he's been done dirty by two different adaptations. And it's fine. He wasn't my favorite, but I just would have liked to have seen something more from him.
Not to mention Envy Adams. Her getting cheated on was a pretty traumatic event in the book. Well, I guess just the one. No, she got cheated on multiple times. I stand by it. It was a pretty major beat in the books, and it's just played for laughs in the show. Which is, I don't know how I feel about it. I guess that's why it's confusing.
Okay, gang. Scott Pilgrim. What did we watch and read, and how do we feel about it?
Well, the Scott Pilgrim comics ask the question, can Scott Pilgrim defeat Ramona Flowers' evil exes and win her heart? But the bigger question is Scott Pilgrim willing to take on the baggage of another human being and his own and unpack it all? Is it worth dealing with scars and wounds that he did not inflict? And the answer is yes.
Oh, yeah, emphatically yes. You're probably not going to be punching anyone's evil exes, but you are going to be dealing with the products of what they did when they were with your partner. And even without getting to know these characters over multiple volumes and getting attached to them, I think that we can all agree that people are worth getting to know in spite of their baggage, generally.
In the Scott Pilgrim anime series, we ask if Ramona Flowers will be able to explore a relationship further with Scott after he mysteriously disappears after their first date.
And when we find out who he is disappeared by, which is his older self, I don't know, I guess it gets a little disheartening. Like, if you ask me if I'm willing to take on heartaches that I did not inflict in the hopes of loving someone properly, yes, I would. But if my future self was standing in front of me, dirty and kind of lame, and was like, the only difference between you, a happy, optimistic loser, and me, an embittered, fixated loser, is dating this one person, I don't know. I might be dissuaded.
Yeah, I guess it was only one date. Right. Maybe it's a harder pitch when you don't know the characters intimately.
And I guess overall, that's the biggest problem with the anime. I don't think it works as a standalone series because you need a prior relationship with all of these characters to invest in them properly.
So overall, the anime is not worthwhile?
No, the anime is totally worthwhile. I just think that you should read the books first so that you can properly appreciate all the jokes and character development and things that you did. And laugh at the mental image of Matthew Patel finding Gideon Graves like frozen women and being like, what is wrong with white people, and setting them all free. I don't know, that's my own personal headcanon. But here's the thing. Whether you answered no or yes to the question of would you fight your future self for someone you went on one date with, you do question it. You do ask, like, how far would you go for the possibility of something exciting? And honestly, we've all done reckless stuff chasing that feeling. But at age 56 or however But at age 54 or however old I am now, honestly, something that takes me on a journey where something unknown but exciting feels worth fighting for is kind of just as fun and rare and exciting as the idea of a video game inspired life. Anyway, in conclusion, read Scott Pilgrim. I recommend the black and white version because to me the art evolution is easier to see, but the show is solid too.
And the movie.
Yeah. Oh, and definitely check out the anime because that's where you get a Hot Fuzz Scott Pilgrim crossover, and where else is that going to happen?
Oh, and depending on when this video goes up, happy early birthday, Ramona Flowers. And we miss you, Lisa Miller. We'll never forget.
Thanks, guys. I know this one a little shorter, a little less in depth than the last one. Turns out it's easier to talk for a long time about things that should have been good than things that just are. Um, if you have any suggestions of what we should talk about next, leave them in the comments. Yes, and should I set up a Patreon? Is that a thing that I should do? Someone suggested that I put my Venmo or like coffee or something in the description, and I'm gonna. So if you want to give us money, the puppets don't feed themselves. But I don't know. Would you guys like to be more involved with the selection process? Because right now it's just whatever's on someone's mind the day they're motivated. And when the cats will let us film. Yeah, that's about it. Happy holidays. I hope that it's been a good 2023 and that 2024 is even kinder to you. Have a good one.
Hello again, friend of a friend, I knew you when our common goal was waiting for the world to end. Now that the truth is just a rule that you can bend, you crack the whip, shapeshift and trick the past again.
Oh, shit. Don't call me a kid.
Don't play with puppets.
Y'all are on one today. All right. One more thing, we have been pretty critical of Michael Cera and Mary Elizabeth Winstead's voice acting, and I would just like to say that I am still a pretty big fan of both. I think they're both very talented, and you should check them out in other projects.
Right. Michael Cera is at his best in Youth in Revolt.
And you should see Mary Elizabeth Winstead in 10 Cloverfield Lane. So, there you go. That's our endorsement.